Hey guys, it's Sunny with Sunny Healing Intuitions. I'm here for another episode of Journey to Secret Expansion as a bird just literally flew by my window. That was beautiful. So I have been going through the chakra system and I decided to pause that and we'll go into the heart chakra next week. But I'm taking a break from the chakra system to talk about my story a little bit, to really lean into the energy right now and to allow myself to be vulnerable, to share my story from a different viewpoint than what I have in the past. I've always felt like I share, when I listen to my shares from when I started this company, I feel like now when I listen to it, I was coming from a victim standpoint, but now I'm coming through as a person who's transformed, rebirthed, and now liberating myself by allowing myself to speak in a way that's with the intention to release any suppressed emotions, limiting beliefs, old ways of doing things, patterns, cycles, all of it. And that's the energy of where we're at right now. So I wanted to lean into that. I don't usually do much with my hair. I'm more of an all natural person. I've got mascara on, but I'm just being myself today. I'm wearing my favorite color. I'm wearing Slightly Stupid. They're just one of my favorites. I'm just feeling good today. I've taken a lot of time to go within for stillness, spend time with my inner child, allowing myself to experience the magic within my old favorite movies like The Neverending Story. I just watched Mary Poppins yesterday after talking to my friend's kid about the characters, and that was so much fun. Like, I forgot how much I loved that movie. I loved Dick Van Dyke as a kid. I loved watching his show. It was funny too, because this kid's so young, like, I don't think he understood that, like, right after I said that I watched the Dick Van Dyke show, he brought up Mary Poppins, and so I was really glad I leaned into that and watched the movie. I've been watching Robin Hood, the cartoon version, stuff like that, things that I really loved. Flight of the Navigator, oh my god, that's a great one. Dark Crystal. Anyway, okay, I'm really showing my age here, but now that I've created a bond with those who follow me, and anyone who does in the future and sees this, I figure I'd just open up and share and kind of give you an idea of where I'm coming from, my story, and how I got led into this type of work, which is, I know, seems to be becoming popular, but that's because more people are awakening. It's becoming such a different time that a lot of people can't grasp it. And anyway, this is us. This is my new self liberating myself and speaking of this story. Okay. So I'm super excited to share with you all. I did write some things down. Well, I did type a lot of things down. It's just kind of to keep me on track, because I can go off and lose my train of thought. Choo choo. But I was really inspired by Mother's Day. A happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers, any type of mother you are, mothering yourself, even if you've had to parent yourself. Happy belated Mother's Day. I hope you truly had a great day to yourself. But Mother's Day and the full moon in Scorpio was just the perfect time for me to do this, because my former parent, also person who kind of pushed me into this type of work, I guess, because it led me, to do the healing and want to expand this out to others, is a Scorpio. And there's a lot of other planetary movements that are current, and it's just all about releasing the old story, our old self, coming into the new, rewriting our story, allowing us to liberate ourselves from the old self. And within any story of death, we must take the time to grieve. And at this time, I've been spending time in stillness, quiet, and solitude to allow this grieving process of my old self. I've spent time with the inner child. I've done a lot of laughing and singing. I've done some crying. I feel like a lot of it gets moved out of me because I meditate and I work out every day. I've done a couple of workouts a day some days. So there's a lot of that movement happening. Sometimes I'll take a break and I'll go listen to what my body's saying, or go out into nature and connect. So, and I have done a lot of emotional release, honestly, the past year, even the past couple of months. But yeah, it's just, taking some time, just allowing myself that time. And while I've spent time doing so, I found some old feelings, a lot of anger, a lot of sadness, thoughts, memories, some good, a lot of not so good memories coming up. This is not happening to punish me or anyone else if you're experiencing that, which most should be, due to the planetary movement. Yes, it's a real thing, and it's true. It's not folklore. But it's not a punishment. And it's not to place you back where you were. It's not to give you fear, okay? This is to allow yourself to see these aspects of yourself. These are the shadows that we talk about, or that I talk about as well. And these are just aspects of ourselves that we don't want to look at. But this is us giving it a voice, loving it, thanking it for the lessons, and allowing it to go. That's letting it go. That's healing yourself. And that's what I teach. This is what I've been doing this whole time. It's also helping me to grow. It helps us to grow because, as these things come up, we can look at it and love it and let it go and realize that we're not in that anymore. Like, we've gone through it. We're not there. We're able to look back and see how much we've grown from it. I mean, that's really the biggest step, is noticing the growth and allowing yourself not to stay there anymore. And that's really liberating. So now to go in my story. I was born in New Orleans, Louisiana, and I moved around most of my life, so I didn't know most of my family as well as most would know their family. When I was about 10, my parents got divorced. There was a lot of death in the family. Also, my dad's mom died. A little bit before that, my mom's dad had died. I didn't know him extremely well. I know he was an alcoholic and not the best. But I was his favorite apparently. I don't know. Maybe because he didn't see me much. I don't mean that in a negative way, I promise. But we moved around a lot, and when that happened and all the death was happening, it was really hard. When my parents divorced, I was about 10. Shortly after, my mom ran off to California, and then she got married, and a few years after that, my dad had actually gotten married to an old family friend. We won't go into that. And moved to Georgia. And shortly after that, we went to go visit my mom, and she ended up taking custody of us, and we stayed with her. So my awakening happened at a time when I left a toxic relationship that I had moved across a few states to be with this person. I had cut my mom out of my life along with my stepdad. After that, I started dealing with a ton of pain. These were actually pains that were suppressed emotions I stuffed down while trying to be strong and uprooting my life all over again. And it manifested into several fibroids in the cervix, in the vaginal canal, and causing literal contractions, not cramps. Okay, I didn't realize that was what was happening. I didn't know that that's not the type of pain that other women were feeling, because we can't feel what other people are feeling. So going to an ultrasound and complaining about the pain, they had caught one of those contractions and were kind of tripping out a little bit since I was not pregnant. So it took about a year to fall back into the heavy drinking because I had to kind of wean myself off of the drinking at that time to have the surgery because I was very anemic. I was very dehydrated. I was very fatigued from all of this. I was actually, my periods were constant, going to about 65 days, I think was the longest, which made it very hard to work. I was working at Chili's at the time as a server and bartender. We were very busy, couldn't keep staff. This was during the pandemic. I started in August of 2020, and then I left in March 2021 because I started working with the job I'm at now. This was 4 years and 2 months ago. So after the hysterectomy, you would have thought I would have maybe not gone back to drinking, but this was a deep rooted cycle pattern in my ancestral lineage. So this was passed down in the womb throughout many lifetimes, I'm sure. It was during a breast cancer scare it was a little over a year ago. It was March of last year, and so I fell back into the heavy drinking. I had 2 traumatic procedures that took me to the scariest, darkest place of my life. During this time, a very close friend of mine wasn't really necessarily there for me. My dad was not as supportive as I needed him to be. My cousin stepped in, but just a lot of things with that, that I could unpack, but it was rough. I just didn't have the support I needed at the time, which was emotional support. I started realizing I never really had much of that emotional support. Most of the support I had was mostly from my dad, and most of that was money. And I'm not a person that values money. It'd be nice to have things. I haven't had a whole lot growing up. We didn't have a whole lot of money, but that's why we moved around so much. Was chasing jobs where my dad did make more money than we did in Louisiana. When I got into spending habits, those material things were because of that. Anyway, that's a little bit further than where I wanted to go yet, but I had noticed I didn't have that emotional support I needed. I spent time praying in the bed after I had a needle stuck through my boob with a wire, and I felt every bit of it because lidocaine doesn't do anything for me, and they won't give you much because you have to lay on your side while holding the machine while your boob is entrapped into the machine so they could put the wire through. So you have to be awake to hold yourself up. And so I prayed. I was in so much pain. It took about almost 2 hours for me to get back there. And my dad kept asking me when we were going to be able to leave. And I'm like, no idea. Kind of at the mercy of the hospital here, Then the next day I spilt a shake and told my dad. He was sitting outside smoking. I told him I had spilt the shake and he didn't do anything, so I had to clean it up. I was in pain. I cried for quite a while. I don't usually cry, but it was just hard. I just realized that I didn't really have much, of true support that I needed. So it was a very dark time. And when I had him take me home, I had him help me stop to get a bottle, and I went home. And I don't like pain pills because it's a PTSD thing for me with my mom. So I don't normally take them, but I was in so much pain, more so than my hysterectomy, that I had to. I was at my wit's end with it. It was that bad. I ended up taking one of the pain pills, and I had a couple of drinks, which was Jameson for me. And then I forgot that I had taken one, and I was still in a lot of pain, and I took another one. And at that point, when that hit me, I thought I was going to die. So I poured the liquor out, and I threw the pills out safely, and never looked back. So that's kind of like what started my awakening, all of that. I wouldn't say that, I would say that I went through the dark night of the soul before the whole breast cancer scare. This was when I really started to awake. Okay. So it's been 14 years since I've been on my own completely, like moved out of the state, away from family, didn't have that, was on my own. I've been parenting myself since I was young, but that's just in ways that they didn't. 5 years since I stopped talking to my mom. 3 years of living in Mississippi. 1 year of living on the coast. In a surrounding of people instead of locked away in the country. 1 year, 1 month, and 22 days of not drinking alcohol. And 6 months since I stopped speaking with my dad and my brother, which, if he's watching, I hope that you understand why you're better off than being in contact with me for the moment, but I will be reaching out to you at some point, I promise. So there was a lot of alcoholism in my family, and I noticed during the time of the breast cancer scare that my family were more enablers rather than somebody who was willing to help, right? 1 second. So what I mean by enablers, when I look back now, and this was something that really came to mind when I stopped talking to my dad and started paying more attention to me rather than making him comfortable, which is what I did to everybody. But anyway, I noticed that it was pretty obvious I had an issue with drinking, with several people, had seen how bad I was. Yet nobody came to me, nobody approached me or tried to help me or even offered to help. Never even mentioned it, but yet would drive me to the bar, like help me get the stuff, so I look at it that way. I mean, it is what it is, I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just saying I had noticed that. And I know I've been in that position too. I mean, we're all reflections of everything that's happening in our lives. Like, other people are mirrors of us, and what comes up for us, that's usually what we need to work on. Pills were a huge thing, like I said. So I had a short-lived moment of having trouble with pills, but luckily I got out of that pretty quick, learning from others. So food, clothes, material things were also other things that I had trouble with addiction. It's like things that I felt like I needed because I had the money to spend it. That was a conditioned learned behavior that I learned from my mom. It's like I never knew how to budget or save money because I knew when I had it, if I wanted something, I could get it. Again, not a blaming thing, just something I noticed. I'm going to say that. I mean, this is for all of that. I lived in a lot of fear around family and others. We were always scared that we were going to upset mom. I was scared not to make the right decisions, to upset others. I mean, I didn't have the best influence either. Did not know what I would get that day with my mom. Every day was an adventure, you didn't know if she was going to wake up in a good mood, or if she did, when it was going to change. I honestly did not know what it was like to have a pleasant lunch with your mom. I would go to lunch with other friends and their mom, and it would be so much fun. And we would have like the best conversations, and it felt so easy. And I was like, wow, that's it. For me, it was like sitting there trying to be upbeat, trying to be positive, talking to, opening up that conversation and talking. And then while talking, noticing the eyes start to stare off, and then the chin start to, and then the legs start to shake, and then you're like, oh God, things are about to go south. So you just never knew what you got. which was very hard. This is why I lived in survival mode all the time. You know, I'd go to friends' houses and I'd hear somebody slam the door and I would be like, oh my God, what happened? Did I do something? Did I upset someone? And it would be like, you know, what's wrong? And I'd be like, you know, did I do something? And they'd be like, no, why? You know, like irrational fear. And we all deal with it in some capacity. So, you know, this is just me helping to share the conditions I had as a kid. And it took there's seriously some things like that had been said to me, like being called stupid, especially when sweeping a floor. You know, they had tile in the house and we had dogs. And I would sweep and apparently I'd kick up, you know, but you could see because like the window, the sun would be coming in through the window and you could see the hair starting to fly, I guess. And I'd ask like, how do you want me to sweep without picking up, you know, because obviously I'm not doing it right. And they'd be like, what are you, stupid? Fucking sweep. Like, you know, it's not that hard. Like, okay, cool. Well, thank you for teaching me, you know, parent. It's like, if I'm not doing it right and I'm asking you to show me, why are you going to sit there and call, you know? So like nowadays, I mean, it doesn't happen as much as it used to, but I would literally like a year ago pick up a broom to go sweep and I would hear that in my head. That's how conditioned these thoughts are in our lives. I see, like now it's like I could see all of this when my people, you know, people I love share what's going on, and I'm just like, that could be fixed so easily, but it's only because I've done all the work. It's not the same as, you know, when you're coming in and trying to learn how to heal, you know, and you have to be willing and open and learning how to heal and want to do it. Just like becoming sober, you can't make somebody understand that something needs a change and how to do it, because if they're not ready, they're not going to listen and it's not going to take. That's just how it is. Throughout that time of, you know, being conditioned, it was pretty hard to know what was right, what was wrong. You know, I felt like I always upset people. My brother, I mean, everybody in my family and people I know will tell you that I was treated very much differently than my brother. The only thing I know that I did wrong was that I told my mom that I hated her when I was 5 years old. Other than that, I tried to show her that I loved her all the time. I cannot tell you how tiring this was. How tiring it was to try to prove how much I loved her. And then come out to visit after I moved away. You know, I mean, there was almost every visit I had, except for maybe one visit, I will say. One visit that went right without this. But there was one visit where I came out for, I think I came out for nearly a week for Christmas and New Year's. I stayed throughout New Year's. My birthday is the 29th, so, you know, I was there throughout Christmas, my birthday, and New Year's. And I had made reservations at a very, very lovely Chinese restaurant overlooking the Dana Point Harbor in California, and I was gonna pay for it and everything. I was treating her to dinner because I knew my stepdad was going to a Dead concert. He was always a Deadhead and followed them around when Jerry was around, so, you know, obviously he's gonna go see them. And they played 2 nights in a row, and she had told me this. This is something that happened all the time. She had told me about this, and then he did too. So when the time came, and her and I were supposed to go to dinner, and he was about to head out to the concert, she got so upset that she wouldn't talk to me because he was going to the concert a second night in a row, and she acted like she didn't know. And the problem is that I literally cannot tell you if she remembered that he was going or if it was just because she took a Xanax or what. I don't know. It could have been an episode. I have no idea. I just know that she's bipolar. I truly believe that she may be undiagnosed borderline or something else, because, or maybe schizophrenic. I don't know. I'm not trying to speak badly. It's just, this is exactly how I felt. because of this will describe like how she was. And so it took him a couple hours to get her to talk to me because of something she was upset with him about. This was my relationship with my mother. Whenever she had fights with my brother, and they worked for a military company that facilitated training for Soviet soldiers going to war, she would get in a fight with my brother. And, you know, he's pretty good at making you upset and pushing your buttons, but that's usually because you've upset him. But she would text me and tell me about it or call me, and it'd be late or she'd be drinking, you know, and I would either not say the right thing or I'd play devil's advocate and ask questions or make suggestions, because I mean she is putting me in the middle of me and my brother. And if I didn't say the right thing and she thought I was on his side, she would hang up on me and then start texting me suicide threats. And I had these suicide threats very often for several years. Until, of course, the day she tried to, when Dad came out for Christmas for the first time in years. I mean, it just made no sense to us, because every time my dad came out to visit, we had family time at their house. My stepdad would cook, they would sit there and chill, drink beers. Me and my mom and Jeremy would, you know, help her with the kitchen or hang out. And it was like a family. It was fun. We had good times. Like, those were good times. And then all of a sudden one year she flipped her fucking lid. But it is what it is, you know? I mean, it was hard. It was very hard living in those states. I lived in survival mode my entire life. And I think I got out of it just last year, or 6 months ago, by not talking to my dad. With him, you know, the thing is with him, he was very supportive as a father. When they got divorced, he learned how to cook. He went for his GED to try to get better jobs. And I mean, he really did take care of us. But I think over the years, you know, being away from him for so long, he just remembered me as a child, and he continued to treat me that way. But as times got tougher with all of the politics, which I'm not going to go into, he started going in a different direction than I could go. And it wasn't because of that. It was the way I was being treated. Because, like, I would try to, you know, like, I'm the type of person who's meant to expand people's minds and visions. If somebody sees something one way, I don't go, well, this is how it is, you know, like, I just say, like, well, you know, I mean, I've seen it this way, you know, I've seen, like, I try to open people's minds and show different points of view, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm always open to learning, and I can't help how other people are going to take it, you know? I mean, everybody should be open to learning. Unfortunately, not everyone is, and I got yelled at a lot. Screamed at, especially reprimanded in a restaurant in front of people who watched this go down, because I made him uncomfortable, made him feel stupid, you know, and basically a lot of things that I felt from him. So we were mirrors for each other, you know, and I truly felt like he was my best friend for a while, which was where my stepdad was in my life. But it just got bad. I mean, it would be like he would try to tell me a story that, I mean, I literally, every day was a story that he told me 100 times. But I always listened because he's my dad, and one day I won't be able to hear it, right? Well, sometimes there's stories I don't want to hear. And I remember one day telling him I didn't want to hear it, and he'd be like, just, would you listen to me? In front of all his friends. And I'm just like, what the hell? Like, I don't want to hear about a dog being choked. All because you thought he was going to attack you, you know, like. And I remember one day, like, I always felt when the tension started rising within him, like, that's how much of a intuitive empath I am. And one day, you know, this is when I was still drinking, we were hanging out at the bar, and he wanted to take me home. He wasn't always willing to tell me what time he wanted to take me home. He always wanted things to happen right when he did, or when he wanted them to, and he liked to control his environment very much so. And I ended up leaving and forgetting to go to the bathroom before I left, and I had to go very bad. And I told him, I was like, look, I forgot to go as we were rushing out. And he flipped a lid and just screamed at the top of his lungs at me, telling me I should just shut the fuck up and I should just learn to keep my mouth shut and all this stuff. And I was like, I had to end up screaming back at him because I couldn't take it anymore. I was ready to open the door and roll out of the car on the highway. That's how bad it was. And that shifted me into that child survival mode again, that fight or flight, and told him to leave me there and asked for my landlord to come get me because I was in the middle of country. And it was so bad, and it was like, you know, the whole gender thing would flip him off, like, or yeah, whatever. Like he would just go off about it, and it's like, you're teaching me about genders, but you're also pushing your thoughts and beliefs onto me because you feel that they're right. You know, it's just, it got to be too much and I couldn't take it. I literally have never found so much peace since I've cut out all of that and cut out some friends as well. And it was painful. My God, I've had to grieve parents that I didn't even lose. I had to choose to lose them. But I gained my power back. I gained my sanity back. I realized that there was so much keeping me back because of how I was treated and because of how I tried to please them, to make them comfortable so that, you know, they wouldn't get upset. Yet I'm creating all the discomfort for myself, and that's what we all do. That's what we do. Okay? In one way or another. And if you've gotten past that, that's cool, great for you, but we're always learning, we're always on this journey, right? So, you know, during this whole thing, it's like I learned who not to be. I learned who not to be at a very young age. You know, my mom was always stressed about something that would happen, and it wouldn't happen, you know. I had my car repoed on my birthday. And the next day I was leaving for San Francisco because I had already paid for the trip. I had a ride. You know, everything was already taken care of. And if I was going to spend any money, it was going to be on something to eat, which I would have done anyway. And she was like, "You're leaving when your car was repoed?" And again, my birthday is on the 29th. So it was the weekend. It was New Year's weekend. So the place isn't even going to be open. What am I going to do? Sit around, miss out on a vacation that I already paid for, and worry all weekend? That's what she wanted me to do. Because that's what she would have done. And I was like, fuck that, I'm leaving. I was hungover as hell and still left. And I had a great time. And I came back. I was able to get my car back. I had friends that donated money towards the cause, and it was fucking amazing. It was the best thing that ever happened to me at that moment. You know, I know it sounds weird, but it's true. Beautiful things can come out of ugly places. I mean, we do. The womb's not a pretty place inside, right? I mean, but we come out beautiful, right? So, I definitely had codependent relationships. I was attention seeking all the time, people pleasing, wanted to, you know, be in good graces with people. So I would try to figure out how to be in good graces with people. You know, putting on that mask, not being myself. I didn't even know who I was until about a year ago. I never knew who I was inside. I was. I was everybody else before that. Everybody else. I definitely learned how to mother myself. I didn't realize I was parenting myself for so long. You know, it's like every time I saw my parents, they always treated me like I was still the irresponsible person. And yeah, things happen as adults, you know, we're not always perfect, but we can't be ridiculed and judged as the person we were years ago. You know, it's like I had moved to Utah from California by myself, lived there, not asking for shit for years, and then all of a sudden I'm irresponsible still, the same person that you left. And then with my dad, it was even worse because I was 12 the last time I lived with him. So that's how I was treated, was like I was still 11, 12 years old. And so it's hard. It's like you have to come out of the goggles and see what's really going on. Look at the bigger picture by going within. When they say the answers are within you, it is so damn true, because too many of us look outside of ourselves to see what other people think. We're giving our power away every fucking day, all day long. And, it's like throughout all of this healing, I've become this person that can mother herself in such a beautiful way. I exercise every day in one way or another. Even if I'm resting, I'm still doing yoga to stretch, getting out for a walk in nature, taking care of myself, not getting back into that. When I do have emotions rise, like recently, I take the time to process them, to allow them to come up, but I don't get stuck there. It's not who I am anymore. I honor that person because I became who I am now. That's the whole purpose, to find the love, because the love is the whole key and answer of why we're here, what we're meant to do. I get into nature every day, even if I'm just sitting on my balcony. I love reading and listening to podcasts. I'm always on this continuous learning journey. I'm taking classes again. I'm doing a lot of healing. I'm going to a retreat this weekend. I'm finally getting back into the community, which is such a change after 5 years of solitude. Like, I mean, there was only maybe 2 years where I was truly alone, but like, and in the last year especially, but like, I didn't have many people around me, I create magic every day, like every day in my food. Like, I make ingredients to say that, this is the oats are to ground my energy, cinnamon for love, just things like that. Just creating my own magic in every day. Setting my intentions for the day every morning, meditating often, eating healthy, nourishing my mind, body, and soul with what I put into my body. Every day, mind, body, and soul. It's like the soul is meditation, the mind, meditation and learning, reading, the body, movement, exercise, spirituality, all of it. I do it all. It's like, and I've created such a peaceful life. I mean, I used to be a person that had to be out all the time, yet have an anxiety attack before I'd go into the place in the parking lot, because it's probably the wrong people I was hanging out with, to be honest. Looking back now. But our body knows. Our body tells us everything. We just have to listen to it. But we don't, because we're too much out in the outer world, paying attention to the news, what's going on with our friends, who's doing what because so-and-so said so, I don't play that game anymore. My life is so much more peaceful and happy now. And I find more is happening for me, because I'm not paying attention to the negative and the toxic, right? So now it's like I'm happy, I'm present, I'm calm in every moment. I'm able to enjoy my own company. I don't allow others to trigger me. I just notice what's going on and I allow it to happen and don't get involved if I don't want to, because I can. And, I live life with intention and love for self and for others. And that's huge. I have always shown love, but not for myself. So today I heard something that I loved and I want to share, because this is going to kind of show you a little bit of all of this wrapped up into this thought, right? We judge ourselves in order to avoid the pain or the past wound or past conditioning of others people's judgment of us not being good enough. We internalize that so others don't, and we end up burying that energy. But in the mess, that's where you find the alchemy. So take with that what you will. I love you all so much. I hope that this was in some way helpful, and gives you a little bit of insight into my story and how I got into this work and how dedicated I am to helping others. And I am so excited to expand on my business. A lot of things are still in the works. I'm still open for personal readings and energy healing, spiritual guidance, whatever have you. If you have questions or you want to share something about yourself in the comments, please feel free. Please like the video, subscribe for more content. And I'm sending you all so much love. I'll see you next week.